Good evening, one and all, and a big welcome. Thank you for joining us here tonight for a special evening with a very special guest. And just as words of introduction, we are finding ourselves, as we know, in a very challenging time. So whatever we can do to increase positivity and inspiration is critical at this time. I invite you to share your cameras and your pictures if you wish, make it more personal, more intimate. If you prefer to keep your cameras off, that's also okay. The topic of tonight is positivity in lockdown. And before I introduce our very special guest, all the way from Sydney, Australia, I just want to mention that positivity is something that has been part of our essence, of our bones, of our DNA throughout history. And one particular highlight of the Seder night that catches my attention every year is the sages who were sitting in Bnei Brak, and they were sitting in the year after the Churban, after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. And they were sitting and celebrating Pesach, which is hard to imagine that after destruction and loss of the temple, the Beis HaMikdash, here they are celebrating Pesach. And they sat through the night, and who knows what they were talking about, how difficult it was, or no chance, opportunity to offer up the Paschal lamb, the Korban Pesach, in that year after the Churban. And they sat the entire night, and we know until the students came, and the students told them, Rabboteinu, our teachers, the time of Shachris has arrived, meaning the light is shining. The light at the end of the evening, the light at the end of the night is shining for us. And that's a message of positivity, to realize that during difficult times and challenging times and lockdown times, we've always got to look for that little bit of light, that little bit of inspiration and the motivation that keeps us positive and keeps us focused during that time. And with that introduction, this is the theme of this evening, positivity in lockdown. I want to welcome a very important man in my life, Rabbi in my life, a personal mentor who I've known for many years, who's known me for many years too. And we're still in touch on a regular basis. Rabbi Gourarie runs an organization in Sydney called Bina, and which deals with adult education. And now it's focusing on children's education as well, with parents and children. And Rabbi Gourarie lectures on different ranges of topics, with a special emphasis on personal growth, relationships, Jewish mindfulness, and meditation. And it's with those topics we're going to approach tonight's evening. We thank Rabbi Gourarie. It's very early in the morning in Sydney, Australia, so we thank you very much for giving of your time, especially at such an hour. I'm going to ask you to, I can unmute yourself now. I've unmuted. You're able to talk.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Rabbi Stern. We live in interesting times. It's great to be creative in the way we can connect. So I'm really happy to spend a few moments with you, sharing a few ideas. I have to be very honest with you. I don't know if you're having this experience, but we are here with weeks and weeks of being isolated or locked down. The days become a bit blurry, and when I first agreed to do this, I got confused, and I thought that Thursday evening in South Africa is late Thursday morning in Sydney, and then once I'd already agreed, I actually realized it was the other way around. So nevertheless, I'm really happy to, truth is I'm an early riser as it is, so it's not that bad, but if I sound a bit croaky, then you'll know why. It's early morning by me. Okay. So, there's a lot of, which is a good thing, there's a lot of humor going around. So I'm sure many of you, if you belong to various WhatsApp groups and so on, you probably have seen the various memes that are going around. I'm sure they're going around worldwide. So, I don't know if you had this in Johannesburg, but in Sydney, especially in the beginning, we had a whole toilet paper crisis. And I saw a meme where a guy goes into a grocery store and is looking for different things. And he says to the person there, says, "Where can I find the nuts?" And the person says, "You'll find them in the toilet paper aisle." And the other one is, a guy getting up from bed and he's lying on his bed and he says to himself, I really need to get out of this bed. I'm late for my couch. And so on and so forth. But with all the humor and with all the jokes that are going around, the truth is that it is a challenging time. Different people are experiencing challenges on different levels, and with various causes. So, for example, one great cause of challenge at the moment is the concept of isolation. Human beings are wired to connect. We are wired for relationships. The essence of the human experience is really to connect with other people. And for many, many people, being isolated, especially people who are isolated more alone or just with a few people, it's challenging. Anxiety, different people are experiencing different levels of anxiety coming from health issues, perhaps, or being scared, fear, general anxiety, financial anxiety, and so on and so forth, which I'm sure is true, as true with you in your communities as with ours. However, a very, very big source of being unsettled or being challenged or being anxious is the concept of uncertainty. The Talmud tells us, Ein simcha kehatarat hasfekot. There's no greater joy than clarity. People like to be clear. People like to know what's going to happen. People like a lifestyle and experience which is predictable. And at the moment, we're full of uncertainty. Uncertainty financially. We're not sure when businesses will start up again. I'm not sure what's happening in Johannesburg, but in Sydney, for example, they released, I should say yesterday now, with the figures of unemployment, staggering figures of people that lost their jobs during the last month. People not sure when things are going to start up again, when is lockdown going to ease, when are the restrictions going to be removed, when is travel going to resume. There's a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty doesn't do well with most human beings. So all of these are sources of challenge. There are mental health issues which are certainly on the rise. And I've spoken to a lot of people in the last month or two, and just on different levels. I mean, some people kind of enjoyed this, but most people find this. Either they acknowledge it consciously or subconsciously, but they're certainly finding this time on different levels, but finding this time challenging. So I want to share with you, just in these few moments, I want to share with you a perspective of perhaps how we deal with some of this. Now, I think it's a perspective which is a generally positive perspective, but I think it's particularly relevant when we're talking about the time that we're going through now. And it kind of breaks down into two. The first concept that I want to highlight is sort of the concept of being able to move from the world of uncertainty to the world of certainty. In other words, one of the things we need to develop, one of the abilities that we need to develop during this time in this world of uncertainty, is learning how to shift within ourselves from a world of uncertainty to a world of certainty. And to do that, one of the ways, one of the strategies, one of the perspectives we can use is something that I like to call Jewish mindfulness. Now let me work backwards. So mindfulness is something which has become very popular over the last couple of decades, particularly in the last 10, 15 years. General mindfulness. However, when we explore the concept of mindfulness, we discover that mindfulness is not a Chinese concept. It's not something modern. It is actually very rooted, with a few modifications, but very rooted in Jewish thinking and Jewish literature. So let's just unpack that a little bit, and let's just understand the concept of mindfulness and how it fits into a Jewish mindset. So one of the more recent experts or gurus in the field of mindfulness is a fellow by the name of John Kabat-Zinn. And he defines mindfulness in very simple ways, and he says the following. So we know that if you want to sort of summarize it or define it in a very brief way, we'd say that the concept of mindfulness is the ability to learn to pay attention on purpose. In other words, to become aware. Now, this is particularly relevant in our time because, especially with technology and particularly with the fast-moving world that we live in, where people are moving from one thing to another, we're kind of on a very, very fast treadmill of life. We're bombarded with all sorts of different priorities, different goals, different expectations, that we sort of tend to run from one thing to another. And often people don't actually stop to be. They don't actually stop to pay attention. How many times has it happened to you when you walk into a room and you're not even sure why you walked in? You were looking for something, you're not even sure what you're looking for. Or you start reading something and two paragraphs in, you actually don't know, you haven't got a clue what you've been reading. People wake up in the morning and as he said it, they go into a shower and there are 50 people in the shower with them because they're already racing. Their mind is racing. They're thinking of what's happening in the office. What meetings do I have to go to today? What are the problems I'm taking from yesterday into today? And so on and so forth. So step one is just the ability to stop and just pay attention to what is happening now, to be aware, to build a consciousness of what is actually taking place now, which leads to the more important, almost the second part of mindfulness, which is learning to be in the moment, learning to be in the now, learning to be fully present and maximize the potential of every moment, of every experience. And the way they put it, and I want to just use this phrase and explain it because it's really important. They talk about being in the moment without judgment. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to be in the moment without judgment? You know, often, I'll give you an example. You can go into a business meeting, for example, or you can meet up with someone for a coffee, right? And you can be fully present and you can be fully there and you can immerse yourself in the experience, in the moment. However, you've come in with judgment. So, for example, you go into a business meeting, you go into an office meeting, and you have preconceived perceptions, you have preconceived ideas. So you already know that one of the members of the meeting is useless and dysfunctional and won't contribute much. Or you already know that another member of the person or another part of the social group that you're meeting up with, you don't like them, they're irritating. So therefore, you might be fully aware, you might be fully in the moment, you might be trying to enjoy or maximize the potential of what you are really doing, but you're not doing that really because you're bringing in the past. You're bringing in judgment, you're bringing in preconceived ideas into the moment, so it's tainting, it's damaging the full openness, the full potential, the full infinite potential of what that moment offers. Or you already have things that you predict are going to happen after the event or after the moment, and therefore that colors or that undermines the full potential of what you can get out of that moment itself. So when they talk about being in the moment without judgment, in other words, it's the ability to experience the now, experience the present, by letting go of any baggage of the past or detaching from any worries of the future in order to be fully in the now and maximize the full potential of what the now, what the moment offers us and what the moment can give us. So that's in a very, very short nutshell. Obviously, it's part of a much longer discussion of what mindfulness is. Now, in Jewish thinking, first of all, it's a very Jewish concept. Number one, in ancient Jewish texts and ancient Jewish writings, we have a word for mindfulness, many words for mindfulness, not called mindfulness, but it's called other things, but we have many words for it. One of them is the concept of kavanah. For example, praying is a moment of mindfulness. Maimonides talks about the prerequisites for being able to pray properly, to daven properly. And one of them he talks about is lechaven, to direct your thoughts, to be fully focused on what you are doing, to be fully present in the experience. We have the concept called pnimiyut, which means the concept, the ability to be fully immersed and fully focused and concentrating on what we're doing. When we say the Shema, you would know that we cover our eyes. One of the ideas is because we remove distractions. Maimonides talks about the way that a person prays, that they have to stand in a particular way. They have to put their feet together and focus, perhaps close their eyes or look into a siddur, all to block out any distractions so we can be fully focused on what we're doing. We have the concept of saying blessings before we eat. It's making a bracha. The reason we make a bracha before is because we want to become aware. In mindfulness, a lot is discussed about eating mindfully. But in Jewish mindfulness, it's a bit deeper. It's eating mindfully. It's being focused. It's being aware of how we got the food, of who gave us the food. So there's so much in Jewish writings which help us with the concept of, or which direct us in the direction of this concept of mindfulness. But really, and this is what I want to share with you, Jewish mindfulness takes it a whole level deeper. Because what does it mean to be fully present in the now? What does that actually mean? So briefly, let me share with you this idea. Everything that exists in the world, every experience, every person, every object exists on two layers, on two levels. We have the body of the experience and the soul of the experience. Just like we have a body and a soul, everything that we experience has a body and soul. So when we talk about experiencing a particular moment, going through a particular section of time, that time, that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes, that 1 minute, that moment is divided into two. There's the body of the moment. In other words, that's what's happening. There's what is taking place on a superficial level. The circumstance of the moment. What is happening right now, that's the body of the moment. But then there's the soul of the moment. And the soul of the moment is the meaning of the moment, the purpose of the moment. How do I give this moment meaning and purpose? How do I connect to the soul of the moment? How do I connect to the depth of the moment? Because everything in this world, fundamental to Jewish thought, is that nothing happens without a reason, and no experience happens without a reason. You know, part of mindfulness, and particularly Jewish mindfulness, is there's no such thing as a means to an end. Let me explain what I mean. You know, if you need to go somewhere, so let's say you have an important appointment or you have a very enjoyable experience that you want to get to. You're meeting up with a great friend, an old friend you haven't seen for many, many years. Not in lockdown, but in normal times, right? And you get into the car and it's 20 minutes away. So those 20 minutes in normal living is kind of a necessary evil. You know, it's purposeless. I don't enjoy driving for 20 minutes. It's kind of a means to an end. Particularly if you get into the car, and I don't know what the traffic is like these days in Johannesburg, but if you get into the car and you get stuck in traffic, and then your mobile phone dies, your cell phone dies, and you're frustrated, or someone cuts you off in traffic. So all of that sort of exacerbates and kind of adds to the frustration of the moment, where the moment to begin with was a moment that you don't really need or you don't really want. It's just a moment that's necessary in order to achieve a particular goal. Or something goes wrong in your house and you're waiting for a plumber, and plumbers, I don't know how he's there, but plumbers don't give you an exact time, and it's kind of, you're late for something and you're waiting for the plumber, and it's a frustrating moment, and kind of, you know, it's a necessary evil. You need to get the plumber there, you need the electrician there, you need that fixed in your home, but it's a frustrating moment. In Jewish thinking, there's a whole different perspective. In Jewish thinking, there's no such thing as a means to an end, because every moment, every day that we have, every day that we experience, every moment that we experience has a purpose, because we are on this planet for a purpose. The purpose might be to be calm. The purpose might be to learn to have patience. The purpose might be to learn to control ourselves when someone cuts us off in traffic, and not to swear at them even though they don't hear. Right? So every moment has a purpose, and to be fully present in the moment means not just to be aware of what is happening, not just to be fully present and be fully focused on what is happening, but to be fully focused and to be fully immersed and to be fully present, not just in the body of the moment, but the soul of the moment. Understand what is the meaning and purpose that I can give to this moment. You know, currently in the Jewish calendar, of course, we're in an interesting time. We're in a time called the Omer, between Pesach and Shavuot, where we have the mitzvah of counting the Omer, counting each day, and it's a kind of a strange mitzvah. You know, most mitzvot that we do in Jewish tradition, we do something. We put on tefillin, we put up a mezuzah, we light a Shabbat candle. We're accomplishing something. Counting a day seems almost pointless. You count a day, the day is there whether you count it or not. You're not going to change anything. But yet the counting of the Omer, the purpose counting the Omer, has an amazing lesson. The concept is that each day separately, each day without the day before, without the day afterwards, each day is a mitzvah. Each day has an opportunity for me to be able to accomplish something. Normally when I am talking to a crowd, especially a crowd that I don't know, I kind of try to gauge the feedback. So it's hard when you can't see most of the people, when you can't, and I don't know most of you. So I'm hoping that you're following me. Now, part of mindfulness, in modern mindfulness literature, they talk about the beginner's mind, or the freshness of the moment. In other words, learning to see each moment as a completely fresh moment, a completely new opportunity. Now, in Jewish thinking, that's very fundamental, because we have a principle called Hamachadesh b'chol yom b'tuvo ma'aseh bereshit, which means that God recreates the world every day, or as Hasidic teaching, Kabbalistic literature and Hasidic teachings teach us, that it's actually every moment. Meaning, it's not true that we believe that God created the world in 6 days, so many thousands of years ago, and just let it run. But actually, God's creative power is something that happens every moment, which is an amazing idea. In other words, it's the concept that every moment is new, which is why they talk about the beginner's mind and the freshness of the moment, that we come to a moment and we let go. That no matter what happened yesterday, irrespective of the failures or the mess ups of yesterday or the potential disasters of tomorrow, but right now I'm in a new day, I'm in a new moment, and this moment has pure, undiluted, untainted potential, which I can connect to. I can learn to focus on the now. I can learn to be fully present and find the meaning and the purpose of this moment, of this day. But how do we do that, and what does that actually mean? So here I come to what I began to make reference to before, of learning the way we actually can be fully present in the now, without the stuff of yesterday, without the baggage of yesterday or the worries of the future, is what I said before about learning to shift from the world of uncertainty to the world of certainty. And what does that actually mean? Because if we ever lived in a time of uncertainty, it is now. Most of us are used to certain expectations. We wake up in the morning, we expect things to run reasonably well. We expect things to run reasonably the way they should run, the way we think they're going to run. And yet we're in a time now where it's not that way. We don't know what each day brings. Each day there's something else in the media. Each day there's something else in the news. And we are definitely, without a question, going through a period of complete uncertainty. So what does that mean, therefore, to move in this circumstance? What does that mean to move from a world of uncertainty to a world of certainty? So let me share with you what that means. But if we can master that concept, it will drastically change our whole perspective and drastically bring calmness, focus, a sense of security. If we can master that skill of moving from uncertainty to certainty and being fully focused on the now. What do I mean by that? Because when we talk about connecting to the meaning of the moment, what do we mean? What do I mean when I say that we shouldn't just connect and be present in the body of the moment, but to connect to the soul of the moment? You see, there are two ways that people live. That's what I call the outside-in model or the inside-out model. The outside-in model is what a lot of us do, and that is that we let the outside world, the achievements on the outside, the people on the outside, what happens on the outside of me, define and guide and inspire what I am going to be, right? So people become what is expected of them. People do what is expected of them from the outside. People's mood change depending on the way people spoke to me on the outside of me. So my achievements, my successes, my relationships, my interaction with the outside world, the weather even on the outside world, things, circumstances, things that are happening outside of me become the basis of what I am going to be and I am going to respond. However, that's a very ineffective way of living and a very un-Jewish way of living, actually. Because the deeper way of living and the more effective way of living is to master the skill of living with an inside-out model. In other words, to begin with who I am. What is my values? What do I actually mean? What is the depth of my existence? What is at the core essence of my being, of my soul, of my spark? Let me tell you a little story of a great Chassid who I knew, a great Hasidic Jew. His name was Reb Mendel Futterfass. Reb Mendel Futterfass was he came from Russia under communist regime. He lived a very, very challenging life, but you would never know it. If you ever met him, if you ever saw him, he was beamed with joy. Now, let me just give you a bit of background. Reb Mendel Futerfas lived under evil communist dictatorship, a regime that was focused on eradicating Jewishness, a regime that would torture and arrest people and send them to Siberia on the slightest of suspicion of not being with the government. He was an intelligent person. He was a Hasidic Jew, and he was actually semi-successful in terms of business. But his love for people was amazing. And if you know, after the war, just after the war, there was a short window of opportunity where in Russia people could leave if they were Polish citizens. So what Reb Mendel did to save so many of his friends and people that he knew, other Jews, he helped people falsify passports to create false Polish passports so people could leave Russia and escape the evil of that regime. And eventually he got caught. He got caught, and I think he was sent like for 10 years to Siberia, to a gulag, where he was together with other Cossacks, together with other Russians, and together with many, many other political prisoners who were there suffering with him. And many of these people were down and dejected and overwhelmed and depressed because of the circumstance that they found themselves in. And one day there was a discussion. Reb Mendel and many, many of the other prisoners were sitting, and a discussion arose where people were sharing what they were before they were arrested. So the one guy is saying, you know, before I got sent here, I was a doctor. The other guy says I was a scientist. The other guy said I was, I don't know, I was a business person, or whatever the case might be. And everyone was describing their life before they arrived. And as they were doing it, you could see the intense pain and the intense frustration and the depression that was overcoming them of comparing what they were before to what they are now. And suddenly one of the prisoners looks at Reb Mendel Futerfas and he says to him, "What's with you? Why are you always so happy? I mean, how come you're the only one that this whole thing doesn't seem to affect you that much, or doesn't seem to get to you?" And Reb Mendel very quickly responded with the following, and he said, it's very simple. All of you are talking about what you used to be, and what you used to be is drastically different to what you are now. He says, what I was is what I am now. Because you're defining yourself by what you did. I'm defining myself by what I am, and what I am hasn't changed. And that's what I call inside-out living. You see, we have things that we do, we have the outside world that we respond to, and then we have what we are. What we are means our value system, the soul that we have, the search for meaning. Viktor Frankl, in a bestseller book, Man's Search for Meaning, describes this in more modern terms in his theory of logotherapy, where he talks about the innate, deep desire within every single human being that comes from the depth of the soul, or the way he calls it, the spark within every single person, to live a life of meaning and purpose. And that meaning and purpose does not come from the outside world. The meaning and purpose comes from inside. It comes from our soul, which is connected to God. It comes from our soul, which has within it a spark of divine energy. It comes from the desire to seek a life of meaning and purpose by helping other people, by connecting to spirituality, by studying, by being involved in a mitzvah, to live each moment with value and purpose. Those things is the world of certainty. Right now, we're living through a tremendous period of uncertainty, but the uncertainty, the world of uncertainty, lives on the outside. The world of certainty is within. In other words, our soul, our value system, our divine connection, that is absolutely certain, that hasn't changed, that has remained absolutely the same. It is exactly the same as it always was. So, you know, as we wake up each morning during this period, right, we don't know what today is going to bring. You know, for me, it's 10 to 5 in the morning. I haven't even looked at the news yet. Who knows? Who knows what today is going to bring? But what I do know is that my value system, my soul, hasn't changed. It's the same as yesterday, the same as last week, the same as 10 years ago. I need to nurture it more. I need to work with it more. I need to constantly reveal it and bring it out into the open. But what it essentially is, my essential core identity, hasn't changed at all. You know, I saw, I'm sure many of you have seen these things, but circumstances change, but values don't. You know, I saw a little video of a chuppah, a wedding in Israel. I'm sure many of you have seen these things. And it got me thinking. I saw a little video of a chuppah that was just 10 people. You know, in a way it was sad almost. You see a couple in the ultimate moment of their lifetime standing under a chuppah, getting married normally would be with hundreds of people, good friends, close relatives, and so on and so forth, and they're standing there and it's sort of empty. But in Israel, there's like these a lot of apartments, a lot of balconies, and suddenly in the middle of the chuppah, you see lots and lots of people come out onto their balconies to help make the chuppah a happy experience. And as soon as the chuppah is over, everyone starts to sing, each one in their own balcony with their proper social distancing, and so on and so forth. And it turned out, I was watching the video, and it turned out to be a chuppah with such intense joy, such amazing generosity of spirit, just incredible unity, physically distant. And I was thinking to myself, what a creative way of doing things. In other words, the circumstances change, but the value doesn't change. And I was thinking not only that, but I was thinking that chuppah perhaps was the happiest chuppah I've ever seen. Because sometimes you go to a chuppah and there could be 300 people there. There could be 300 people standing there, but a lot of people are not there. They're not present. They're not focused. One guy's on his phone checking the news. The other person is getting frustrated because the rabbi's taking too long. I'm sure. I'm not talking about your rabbi because he's a good speaker, but other rabbis or they got to go somewhere, but it's just impolite to leave the chuppah. Right, so not all of the 250 people who are all busy thinking about the things they have to do on the outside, so they're not fully present. They're not fully there. This was a chuppah where there were 10 people, but 200 people from balconies who were fully there, who were fully focused. So when I talk about being fully present, not just in the experience of the moment, but in the soul of the moment, that only comes if we focused on values. It only comes if we wake up in the morning and we think to ourselves, I don't know what today's going to bring on the outside, but I do know what this day can bring on the inside because it's the same as yesterday. My value system hasn't changed. So I wake up this morning and I think, how can I instill joy? How can I strengthen the relationship with my partner? How can I be kind today? Now, I can't be kind by being physically kind. I can't go to someone perhaps, but there's so many creative ways that I can make my values, meaning, and purpose work in this day. I can reach out to someone that I haven't reached out to for a while. Think of someone who you haven't spoken to for a while, who maybe needs a bit of a lift. Give them a call. I haven't talked to you for a while. How are you doing? How are you going through this time? Some of us are locked down in houses. It's an opportunity perhaps to learn more, to study more. Let us perhaps engage in a mitzvah that we haven't done. In other words, there's so many things that we wake up in the morning without knowing what this day is going to bring, without knowing if we're going to have what we need today or tomorrow. But one thing we do know, like Reb Mendel in the Gulag, in his Siberian prison, one thing we know for sure, that we can be fully present in today's day, because this is a day, forget about yesterday, forget about tomorrow. Now, I can't forget about yesterday or tomorrow if I'm thinking about circumstances, because the circumstances are very uncertain at the moment. The circumstances keep on changing, and if we focused on the outside world, it's very difficult to be fully focused on the now, because it's a moving part, and we constantly anxious of what happened yesterday, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's my business going to be like tomorrow, what's my financial situation tomorrow, and so on and so forth. The world of uncertainty. But if we change around and we move from inside out, and I wake up this morning and I say, irrespective of what happened yesterday, irrespective of what I messed up yesterday, irrespective of how irritated I got because I'm living in the same person for how long, and for so long, and we're getting each other's nerves, but today's a new day. Today, I want to be fully present in the now. Today, I want to live a life of meaning and purpose. And irrespective of what happens on the outside world, my soul is the same. Irrespective of what happens on the outside world, I can give today full meaning, full purpose. I wake up in the morning and I ask myself the question, how can I make this day filled with meaning? How can I be fully focused just on today? Forget about yesterday and tomorrow. Like the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Each day is a separate mitzvah. We count the Omer. Today is the day I can make work. Today I can maximize the infinite potential of the moment and the opportunity to grow as a human being, to do something meaningful, to help someone by reaching out to them, by studying something to become more knowledgeable, by perhaps engaging in a new mitzvah. Wake up in the morning and think to myself, what can I do today to make the day work? And the best way to do that, and let's kind of bring it together with this. The best way to do that is to make sure we wake up properly. Now, I'm going to wish you soon a good night, but for me, it's waking up. So that will be the focus for now. So waking up is such an important part of the day. The Zohar tells us, we just celebrated Lag BaOmer, the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. The Zohar tells us that the way we start our day affects the whole day. And in Jewish practice, if we just are a bit more mindful and we stop to think what's going on, the way we start a day is phenomenal. Because many of you might know that in Jewish practice, we start the day by a simple prayer called Modeh Ani. Modeh Ani is an amazing prayer. It's an amazing prayer of Jewish mindfulness and gratitude. There's no better way. The way we start the day with a positive note affects the entire day. Because what is Modeh Ani? Modeh Ani is this. It's waking up in the morning, and instead of racing and thinking about what's going to happen during the day, it's stopping, it's pausing, and it's saying to ourselves, hold on a second, I'm alive. I actually woke up. I'm breathing. Mindfulness has a tremendous focus on breath. The reason for that is because breath is the essence of who we are. It's not what we do and achieve. Breath is our life. And most of us, unless we have a cold or suffer from asthma, actually never stop to actually focus on the fact that we're breathing. And breathing is the most amazing thing. The fact that we're able to breathe, and the fact that every breath is distinct from the other, and that every breath is a new lease on life. Every breath is a new infusion of energy, and it's detached from the one before. It's everything that mindfulness stands for. But just to be aware, just to stop and actually focus on our breathing is a mindfulness practice. But in Hebrew, the word for breath is neshima, which is breath, which is the same word as neshama, soul. Because when God infused Adam, the first man, the first human being, with a soul, it says, "Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim." God blew into his nostrils a soul of life. Because when we breathe, it's not just breathing. The breathing is the body of the experience. But every breath that we take is the soul of the experience. Every breath we take is actually a manifestation, it's an expression of our soul. And when we wake up in the morning and we stop and we think, I'm waking up today, Modeh Ani. First of all, I'm filled with gratitude that I'm alive. I thankfully acknowledge that God has given me back my soul, refreshed, pure, energized, ready to face the day. Make it a soul day. Make it a day that I'm going to put something of meaning and purpose into the day. That's an amazing way to start the day. First of all, the research tells us, modern day research, that when you start the day with gratitude, it affects the day. But this is a deeper gratitude. It's a gratitude of stopping, focusing, being aware and conscious of the fact that I've woken up, I'm alive, I'm breathing, and that breath is an expression of my soul. And the breath and expression of my soul means that I commit, as I wake up, as I become aware, as I'm conscious of the fact that I'm actually alive and breathing, and my breath is an expression of my soul, I commit to living this day inside out, that the circumstances maybe will change today. The circumstances are uncertainty, but I pledge to move from the world of uncertain to the world of certain. My soul is certain. My values are certain. What my soul stands for and gives me is the world of certainty. And that gives me the ability to focus on today's day, because today is a day, irrespective of anything else, that I can bring meaning and purpose. No matter what happens today, one thing I'm certain of, I can become a better person. I can do something good. I can help someone. I can support someone. I can reach out to someone, and I can bring meaning and purpose to this day. But I will tell you that making that shift from the world of uncertainty to certainty, and learning to focus and learning to live inside out and to be aware of our inner soul and inner meaning, takes practice. And that's, today in modern mindfulness, there's tremendous emphasis on practicing, doing meditation exercises, doing mindfulness exercises, because it takes practice, just like going to the gym. You need to work out. But it's not just about the meditation. It's not just about those mindfulness exercises. Those are just meant there to create a focus. But really, it's about taking those exercises and then inspiring the rest of the day to learn how to live mindfully in anything that we do, to learn how to calm down, to learn how to live with calmness, learn with focus, talk to people, to be fully present, being stuck sometimes in a bit of upheaval and chaos, but learning to say, no, the chaos is just on the outside, but how can I be with calmness? How can I focus on the now? It's taking that mindfulness focus and exercise and learning how to use that throughout the day to live with focus, live with presence, live with meaning, and live with purpose. So I don't know what you guys are used to, but I'm going to invite you just for a few moments to join me in trying to bring this and try to internalize this concept with a bit of a Jewish mindfulness exercise. If you're not used to this, you're welcome just to fall asleep. But if you want to join me, stay with me and let's just experience this for a few moments. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just to, wherever you are, I don't know, everyone's on Zoom, you never know where people are and what they're doing, but if you're on the couch, on the floor, on the bed, on the seat, just try to sort of feel relaxed and get yourself into a relaxed and comfortable position, whatever's comfortable for you. And when you're ready, just slowly and comfortably just close your eyes. Closing your eyes to remove all distractions. With your eyes closed, I want you to turn your attention to your breathing. First of all, just become aware that you are breathing. Feel the rhythm of your breath, and just do that by slowly breathing in and out. As you breathe, try to feel the calmness of the rhythm of your breath pattern by breathing in and out, feeling every inhalation and every exhalation. Try to focus and actually feel the breath, the air coming in, filling your lungs, and feeling the sensation of exhaling it out. As you keep your attention focused on your breath, focus inwards. Focus on where you are, who you are, and just become conscious and aware. What I want you to do now is to breathe deeply and hold it, and then feel the sensation of letting go. So breathe in deeply, hold, 2, 3, slowly breathe out. Breathe in deeply, hold, 2, 3, slowly breathe out. Keep doing this, feeling the deep breath, feeling the calmness of letting go, breathing out. As you continue to focus on your breath and the calmness of the pattern and the rhythm, remember that your breath, neshima, is a manifestation of your neshama, your soul. Every breath that you take is an expression of your deep soul. As you breathe in, focus on the depth of who you are, the depth of your neshama, the layers of your soul. Breathe deeply and think of the core essence of who you are, the spark at the very depth of your neshama, the godly energy at the foundation of your existence. Try to access and connect to that deep spark which is never tainted, which is always pure, which is the depth of you. When you breathe out, feel the letting go of toxicity, the letting go of superficiality, the letting go of the things on the outside. And then breathe in, connecting to who you really are. The soul that is certain, the soul that gives you your values, your godly connection. The soul that is expressed in every breath that you take. Modeh ani lefanecha. I thankfully acknowledge you, God, for giving me my soul. I commit to the soul being who I am, defining and guiding my life from within me to be aware and conscious of the meaning and purpose of every moment, to connect to the soul, to put my soul in every experience. Just continue breathing and try to hold on to that thought. Modeh ani lefanecha. I want to make this day a day of soul, a day of meaning, a day of purpose. As you hold on to that thought, come back to the now. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and try to carry that with you. For you guys in Johannesburg, it's evening, so take that thought with you as you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, there's a very important part to going to sleep as well. In order to wake up with the real Modeh ani, you have to go to sleep letting go of the negativity of the day. You know, many customs, there's a custom before one goes to sleep to recite a prayer of forgiveness. Forgiveness means to let go of the resentment, of the negativity, of the uncertainty, of the stuff of the day, in order that tomorrow morning when you wake up with the Modeh ani. Try to wake up, try this every morning. Let it not be theory. Wake up tomorrow morning or Friday morning, and before you jump out of bed, just stop. If you can say the Modeh ani, it's very powerful, but say it with a bit of focus. Think about your soul, think about your breathing, think about the fact you're alive. Think about that each breath actually represents your soul. And try to just to say to yourself, one thing, two things, three things, what am I going to do today to be positive, to give meaning, to fully focus on the opportunity of today, letting go the uncertainty of yesterday and for tomorrow. So I want to really thank you guys for listening. It was wonderful to connect to you in this bizarre way. And thank you, Rabbi Stern, once again for inviting me. And let's hope we meet in person. I see my mother has been listening to me, so I'm going to get good, honest feedback soon. Hopefully it'll be positive. But hopefully I'll visit. We'll be able to travel. I'll visit, and when I visit to see my mother, hopefully maybe I can connect with some of you. I see Stacy. Stacy's there. Hi, Stacy. And I want to wish you all just a lot of success, a lot of good things in the future. Those of you who are suffering with financial stuff, it should get better. Everyone needs a health, should be healthy. As I've always been saying to people lately, stay safe, stay sane, and stay spiritual. Thank you, Rabbi Stern.
Thank you, Rabbi Gourarie. That was phenomenal. And wow, so structured and so brilliant and palatable. So I want to, as I discussed with you today, you did allow for some time for some questions. We'll see how it goes. As you and I spoke, it's not easy to engage with Q&A over Zoom. So it's really up to the participants if they wish to contribute and be part of the conversation. You can do so in the chat by either putting your question for everyone to see, or you can send it privately to me and I'm happy to read it out anonymously, whichever one you choose. Or I think we'll just do it that way rather than having people unmuting themselves. So feel free to write your question either to me privately or to everyone publicly. I'm going to start with the first question. And I know you did address it, but maybe perhaps some practical tools. A lot of the noise that happens is around us, meaning socially, at work, with our colleagues, with friends and family, of noise of negativity. You know, pessimistic comments and negative comments, which is the noise around me. So maybe I'm just asking personally, maybe some practical tools of what should be one's mindfulness, one's focus at that time when hearing all the chit chatter around us, and we're trying to remain focused and positive and inwards. How to deal with the noise that could be negative around me?
That's a great question. I think first of all, one very practical strategy, especially during this time, is to check the news less often. We're very, very attached to our phones, and I think there's a kind of temptation during this time to, very quickly wake up and see, so what's the new things? Are there any numbers? What are the numbers doing today? What's the financial situation today, and so on and so forth. And I think particularly early in the day, because I think there's no, one of the foundations of all effective living is that it's very difficult to control the outside world, but we could control ourselves. So, it's always good to surround ourselves with positive people and positive experiences, but mostly it'll come from our perspective. So, and one of those, and a lot of that is established, as I said, at the beginning of the day. So, even like something like getting up in the morning and saying, I'm not going to check the latest for the first half an hour, for the first hour, just to build that positive focus from within. And then I think when people are positive and people live from within, you kind of create a positive vibe around you as well, and that affects other people. Doesn't always. And then just, sometimes it's worth just having a respectful conversation with others and saying, look, it's very important for me to really stay positive and stay focused. That's my focus for the now. So they know at least that you're working on that. So they know, this guy's a bit of a positive guy. So we need to sort of tone down the negativity. But really it comes from within. It comes from that commitment that we have to look at things in a positive light.
Okay, there's a question to Rabbi Gourarie here, and feel free to join the conversation, everyone, in the chat. So here's a question, and it was sent to me privately, so I'm just going to read it out anonymously. What are practical methods / meditations beyond the halachic duties of shachrit, etc., that one could do in the morning? The question is actually that he does in the morning, that maybe that you do in the morning. But what are practical methods and meditations that one could do in the morning or upon awakening to instill mindfulness? In addition to, I guess, shachrit or halachic duties of shachrit. What could be the mind?
Right, it's interesting that prayer is a time of meditation, but not always people do it that way. Sometimes we do it very quickly or by rote, or we get it over and done with, so it doesn't become very meditative. But I think, it's about any time during the day. It's about sitting down. A very simple thing. There are many things out there, but just in a very simple way. Something that anyone could do is just once in a while sitting down, closing your eyes like we did before, focusing, and the best way to do that is focusing on your breathing and breathing deeply, abdominally, and slowly breathing out, because it creates a pattern of calmness. And then just to think about something positive. Think about something that's connected to your values. Think about something godly maybe, or think about Modeh Ani. Just to spend a few minutes thinking about letting go, even if you've come out from a very stressful sort of experience. It's just about sitting, breathing. The physical, by the way, sensation of breathing, the research is clear about that breathing abdominally, breathing deeply actually creates calmness. And then focusing on something that is dear to you, something that is important to you. So like focusing on a value. And you can do this yourself. It's not very difficult. It's just that exercise of actually sitting down, focusing, and then breathing, staying calm, and then focusing on something, thinking about something that's connected to who you really are, to your soul, to your values, to your godliness.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. The next question is, and feel free, guys, to keep this going. Rabbi Gourarie started off very early, so I'm sure we got a few hours here.
I got time. No one I can talk to right now. Everyone's sleeping.
So the next question is related to economic times, jobs and finances. It may not be, I'm sure it is linked to your presentation, to your talk, but looking for advice and tools for people in uncertain circumstances surrounding jobs and finances, especially during this time.
So let me just make one disclaimer before I answer that question. We just ran actually a dinner where, the organization I run, we just ran the other night a Zoom session on had a financial expert come and talk and give people a bit of guidance during this time. And I explained that I had to get an expert in because although the Gourarie family originally of Russia was a very big business family, somehow the genes didn't come to me. So I don't know much about financial advice, but I will say this to you. You know, when I talk about living from within, I don't mean that we should live irresponsibly, God forbid, right? Part of our moral responsibility is to plan and to do what we call in Hebrew hishtadlut. In other words, to make the vessel for God's blessing. And therefore, we certainly need to reach out to people who have financial expertise for advice, for questions, for support, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, the two things have to live together. Because what we need to understand, I think one of the greatest problems with financial difficulty, besides the practicality of not having enough resources, financial resources, is the way we beat ourselves up. And it's so linked to what I said before, because so many of us, consciously or subconsciously, define ourselves by the success or lack of success financially. And a lot of the stress comes to that. So there's three things I want to just say. First of all, we really need to constantly look at how we define ourselves. Do we define ourselves by intrinsic value, by the soul that we have, by the people who we are, or by our successes and failures on the outside and the images that we create? Number one. Number two, we certainly need to reach out and do the responsible thing and do whatever we can to make things better in a natural world. But then, of course, Judaism tells us the other thing we have to learn to give up control. One of the greatest problems of the human experience is that we are obsessed with having control, with controlling things on the outside, and we don't have any control. Part of living from within is to give up, to surrender, to do what we need to do responsibly, but then to say to God, I'll let you run the world. You have to run the world, and I trust in you. And putting myself in God's hands means I'm putting myself in the hands of infinity, and therefore the potential for things to turn around, the potential for things to become better. I'll do what I need to do. I'll make the necessary efforts and strategize the way I'm supposed to do it, but then I'm going to give up. It's like when a person is unwell, the same idea. To live irresponsibly is bad. Of course, you have to go to the best doctor. You have to look for the best medical strategies. And then you have to stop worrying, which is difficult to do, of course, but that's the concept. In other words, I'm going to do what I need to do, what I am in control of, what I'm responsible to do, and then I'm going to let God run the world. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's
it does. Thank you.
thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's thank you very much for that interaction and for those cute questions. And Rabbi Gourarie, thank you for your time and your presentation. I think it was very worthwhile, and thank you for giving us of your time. The word mindfulness is a powerful word. And I think the next step is to try and find ways of implementing that, living with it. And that meditation was like spot on, Rabbi Gourarie. Thank you for sharing that with us. I wish you all a wonderful evening. This video, the presentation has been recorded onto YouTube. I've changed the settings slightly, so it's not there yet. But if you look tomorrow morning on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Rabbi Stern, you'll be able to find this presentation. If you wish to watch it again or to share it with your friends and family, you're more than welcome to do so. And I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful evening. Please God, tomorrow afternoon, we have our pre-Shabbos Kabbalat Shabbat, as we normally do at 4:20. It's a little bit earlier this week, 4:20. And we have two very distinguished guests who are going to be joining us. Rabbi Shaul Robinson, who is the rabbi of the Lincoln Square Synagogue in Manhattan, together with the chazan of the Lincoln Square Synagogue, Chazan Yankee Lemmer, who's going to be joining us as well. So we have the combination of the Lincoln Square rabbi and chazan that will be joining us as part of our Kabbalat Shabbat, pre-Shabbos Kabbalat Shabbat. Please join us there, 4:20 p.m. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.